Let's call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Stacy. First order of business is to review the April minutes, and then we would ask for a motion and a second for any corrections.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Seth.
A second.
Thank you. I'm sorry, was that Jen? I was looking down, or was that?
That was Stacy.
And, you know, I know this space, we're kind of virtual here, but we do have some new members. Maybe we should just do a very quick round robin of introductions, just because not all of you may know Mark or Kate. We'll just start real quick. I'll start here in the room and then sort of guide folks in the virtual boxes in front of me. So, you know, I think you all know who I am because we've all met. So I'm Eric. And I'll turn it to my left, to Commissioner Flynn.
I'm Andrew Flynn. I'm Commissioner for Ward 5 and the liaison to this board.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hi, I'm Kate Irvin. I'm a fairly new member of the commission.
Stacy.
Stacy Ryback. I think I'm on year 5 with the commission.
Sounds about right. Seth.
I am Seth Davis. I am, I think, entering year 3 somehow, maybe 2. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
It's a blend, but yeah, I am in Ward 1 in Mount Lebanon.
Great. And last but not least, Mark. You're muted, by the way.
Mark Trumbull, my first meeting on the ECB.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks to our new members and thanks to the commission for appointing you all. We're excited to have you and the acumen you're going to bring to our efforts for this year.
Eric, we have Jennifer on too. I saw she.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jen. I'm so sorry. You're not. Your picture's not on the.
Oh no, that's okay. So I thought I was going to win
here.
today for being furthest away, but I guess I don't. We're actually on vacation in Dewey Beach this week, but California wins. So.
All right. Well, great. Thanks. And I apologize again, Jennifer. Thanks, and especially to our members in LA and Dewey for taking the time out of your holidays to join us. So the third part of the agenda is Board Authority Transition Plan. I'm going to hold off on that until I think we get to our next meeting, just because I think we need to really kind of knuckle down and really start setting the table for how this board is going to be transitioning to include various other facets of the community. So I don't want to start that today. We're missing a couple folks and their voices will be important. So I want to try to get it when we have everybody on the team here. So if everybody's cool with that, I think we can probably just move into committee updates and keep this thing rolling. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right. So the next on the agenda is mobility. And you know, where we've been focusing is well, Complete Streets is adopted, so you know that check. But where we're really focusing, and I'm going to make a note to update this portion of it, because really where we're at right now is the second, well, 1 and 2. So the South Hills Mobility Task Force has met a few times, about 3-4 times now. Commissioner Flynn was excellent at pulling together sort of a broad swath of stakeholders, not just from Mount Lebanon, but and Seth's a big part of that. But other adjoining communities, you know, looking at this holistically and understanding that political boundaries are just that they're not real when it comes to how people move, but they can create roadblocks. So we have Dormont that's been attending, Bethel Park, and Castle Shannon. So you know, we've had some good intro meetings, and where we are now is I'm trying to pull together a meeting with Dormont leadership, their manager, and some key council folks to discuss where they are and how they want to participate with us as we we hope, embark on an active transportation plan next year. I'm gonna be putting dollars into the budget to do that, to do an active transportation plan. So we want to figure out where Dormont is and how they can participate, if they ought to participate, all of that. So that's sort of a smaller subgroup session that I'm trying to pull together, but as this meeting attests, a lot of folks are on the road. So, you know, but we will get that pulled together. But I'm already framing the narrative for our finance department and the manager and ultimately the commission's deliberations. So that will be in my ask on my wish list for budget funding in 2024. And we'll see who wants to participate. We're focusing mostly on Dormont because they've made a pretty real, earnest and actualized commitment to these issues. They also have, if not passed the complete streets policy, and I think they have, you know, and have already taken some steps to do traffic calming in relatively creative ways, very, very nimble ways. They, you know, they're kindred spirits, and they share our interest and passions in pursuing active transportation. Castle Shannon's at a bit of flux right now. Their manager took a new position. So at the conference, I was able to speak to Krista Mosier, who is on the task force. She's, for lack of a better way, the easiest way to look at it is she's me there. So she works with the commercial districts and economic development and those sorts of issues. Also a kindred spirit when it comes to these things, but I think just Castle Shannon's and, you know, trying to solve some internal admin type things. So, but we'll see where that goes. And Bethel Park, you know, is still very eager and interested to learn, but I think they're at a different level than we are. So that's kind of where we are with that. What I will say, and this is probably more of a discussion for that task force, one, it's probably one of the only things I really gleaned out of this conference, is that there are some there's some technical assistance that we can avail ourselves of that is free through LTAP, through PennDOT, where and they did this group, basically an engineering firm that does active transportation plans, traffic studies, yada yada yada, based out of Mechanicsburg. They've been tapped for LTAP by PennDOT to conduct educational workshops, provide technical assistance, again, free of charge to municipalities. So I haven't even brought this up to the commissioner yet or anything. It just was one of those things that popped up while in this session. I think it would be valuable to bring someone through this program to our communities to host a forum, excuse me, to discuss why active transportation is important and kind of lift the veil of what it is, that it's not some sort of Trojan horse plan for spandex cyclists or something to, you know, impose their will on cars.
It's the communist 15-minute city.
That's it. That's what it is. So, you know, they really have I thought, I mean, for those of us that are sort of enmeshed in this world, the presentation was fairly, you know, what you would expect. But with that being said, it was an excellent presentation. I'll say that it was excellent. And I even learned a few things, and I couldn't help but think this would be very valuable to bring to the South Hills and have a forum, you know, a meeting where they discuss this, so that if we get funded to do our active transportation plan, this is sort of a freebie to wet the whistle of folks and set the stage, set the table for planning activities for that plan next year. So I'll probably bring that up as a email to the task force. I can see CDC, but they have some information I can share electronically. But again, I think that is one of the next steps. Public education, I think, is an important thing for the task force to do. we're asking the community to be engaged in an active transportation plan. It strikes me they ought to know what that is. So, so that's kind of that. I don't know if Seth or the commissioner or anyone else.
I have one thing, so, through Connect. So, for those who don't know, Connect is the Congress of Neighboring Communities. It is a consortium of 41 municipalities, that ring Pittsburgh and the city of Pittsburgh and the county. So I'm the liaison for Mount Lebanon to that body. And we are talking about various right-of-way issues, right? Complete streets, mobility, frankly, trees. These are all common issues across municipalities. As you can imagine, everybody struggles with this. So we are in active conversation about how does Connect help in this dialogue? Obviously, that's at a regional level, so a different scale of discussion. But Connect is working on trying to bring this dialogue forward as well. Actually had a meeting yesterday in Crafton. They made the point that they do a 5-year road plan, repavement, management plan, which I actually had raised to some of our staff, because that would give people time to think about the street and redesigning it, and how do you design it, and what do we want it to be, and all those great things that you want to do before you plan for construction. So it's interesting to see how other municipalities are approaching this. If not even just the active transportation, right? The kind of the core of complete streets, the structural work also needs to be a part of kind of what we're thinking about. So there are different fronts that I'm trying to push this topic on.
Excellent. And one, I saved maybe the best for last. It's part of an educational thing, and I guess I'm dropping bombs here. I haven't even brought stuff to anybody, but I'm just going to keep dropping. Sean Battis, who is on the mobility task force and traffic board. He's on the traffic board and our mobility task force. He really had a fun idea, a fun run right before the Halloween parade. And, we shut the street down. It's already, shut down, and it's a real opportunity for an open street type activity above and beyond just the parade. So I view that as a real opportunity again for, not just a fun run where people can be in costume, wherever they want to do. Sean and I have to talk about it, but I already said, again, this is a great opportunity to seize the moment and educate the public. So, having some information at the parade again about active transportation. I'm an old telemarketer, so one thing I learned was assume the sale. Smile before you dial, that type of thing. So, I'm assuming the sale on active transportation being funded. So I'm going to just proceed as if there's going to be a plan. And if it's not funded for whatever reason, so what? We're still moving the needle and educating folks and building momentum and constituents. So anyway, more on that. Sean and I are going to talk about the fun run. And hopefully I'll see you there, bedazzled in your Halloween costumes. So I think that kind of cinches up that piece. Any additional questions or comments?
I was just going to add, we had the second focus group for the comprehensive plan around mobility. I think it's the second of 3, so there should be more coming out of that. I think they're launching into their next phase on the comp plan. I did share after that group a couple different things from NACDO, and then I think I sent it to the commissioner, but the trees in the curb zone pilot program that Portland was doing is really interesting because of our, I don't know if we've had a tree canopy study recently, but our trees are mature and they are in some cases destroying our sidewalks and curbs and other things. And this was an interesting pilot that really responds to mature trees or an intermediary approach to addressing mature trees, so we don't lose canopy all in one shot when they have pests or other ailments. So I might just forward that to the mobility task force group and others. And then on the professional and partially personal side, PennDOT is pursuing a project from the Liberty Tunnels to McFarland Road. And that's the current segment, which when the next segment would be likely McFarland Road, I think to Cochrane Road, whenever that happens. So the current project they were proposing had a let date of 2025, so it's out there a little bit, but we just had a joint meeting between Dormont, Pittsburgh Regional Transit, City of Pittsburgh, the county participated, and others participated, where PennDOT was just planning for a repaving project of West Liberty Avenue, and Dormont's been asking for road diet considerations since their last comp plan in 2012. They've been asking for it in their safe mobility plan. They've been asking for it in different angles, and PennDOT remains surprised by that. So they're kind of going back to the drawing table, but I think as Eric talked about kindred spirits, they may need some support at some point if PennDOT comes back and says, no, we're going to keep going this same route, because they're not just responding to Dormont and Mount Lebanon that are the main business districts in this segment. They're responding to Upper St. Clair and Bethel Park as well, and not really, I wouldn't call them shared goals for those communities that are bisected. Their main streets are bisected. So more to come there. I think it was a productive meeting. PennDOT is working on coming around the table on these things, and the program that Eric talked about, I think is really housed in central office, and then they contract with Mechanicsburg. I think they have good thoughts on the active transportation side, and the central office or the main bike ped coordinator actually sits in District 11 here in the Pittsburgh area out in Bridgeville. So good folks at PennDOT. I think there's a lot of change there, and I'll keep people updated on that. I don't know when the next meeting will be, but just might be something to throw our hats into at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would hope Brookline and Beachview and all those neighborhood groups are also in the mix. I mean, that you know, it's clear. I mean, West Liberty is an arterial that feeds into those districts, and any disruption or the flow, pedestrian and otherwise, would be, I think, of interest to those groups. So that's good to know. And then also just on that LTAP, for what it's worth, there's a technical assistance agency known as the Pennsylvania Downtown Center. They were the folks that actually hosted this conference I attended. And they have brought on board a full-time staff person that works on active transportation. She's sort of the staff lead for the WalkWorks grant program and anything related to that. So again, some additional, which is also free for us to tap into. She's very passionate, a great advocate. So I had a conversation with her, and again, the gentleman that presented on the subject matter. So, you know, I think there's some great talent that we can tap into for public outreach and education.
Seth, do we need to plan on going to that meeting to advocate?
I don't know if you all have been invited. It might be worth
we have.
following if you want to follow up with Ben. This was, you know, they had a scoping field view, which is part of their process where they want you to check boxes from the municipalities, check boxes from the transit authority.
Right.
In that meeting, we all asked for a follow-up conversation, and that was the county, Anna Gore being the lead on that, who is a Mount Lebanon resident, Ben and others. The next step right now was they were going to take the feedback from this coordination meeting up the chain, because really it's a budgeting item, and they've budgeted for repaving. So there may need to be some considerations depending on what the executive committee within PennDOT or within the district says. Hey, we still want to do repaving, because their priorities are different in terms of pavement quality is a big one. That's their leading priority typically in level of service. And really we're working in, you know, I'm playing the professional side. We only have our 41 route on that corridor, but the red line is still critical in Dormont and Mount Lebanon. More so in Dormont at Dormont Junction, the crossing is really limited there. And actually, when you look at the walk shed, it's extremely limited. So it might be worth just a follow up with Ben, Andrew, via, you know, our manager, and seeing where Ben needs support on that, because it's still sort of there. The next thing that I think you will be pulled in on is the road safety audit that's being run by SPC, and that segment will be from Potomac to Cochrane for a road safety audit. Those are usually private and internal. Please stop. Those are usually private, but Mount Lebanon folks will be pulled into that. And I mean, I'll be a part of it from PRT, but happy to point you in that direction when that comes up and those alerts come out.
All right, thanks, Seth. That's huge. Now we have the weight of a complete streets policy of our own, even though this doesn't affect us directly. It does affect us directly.
Oh,
It's
it does.
not, again, that, I mentioned that political border stuff, you know. Yeah, it may not be in Mount Lebanon, but it's,
Yeah, once they asphalt that, they're locking in, you
yeah,
know, a certain amount of traffic.
It's another 15 years. And, you know, I don't know what the average daily traffic volume is in the Mount Lebanon segment.
22,000.
Yeah, and NACTO, which is the National Association of City Transportation Officials, says 25,000 and below is ripe for a road diet. So it's well within the window. So
Sounds like it. Well, it sounds like
yeah.
they needed a couple extra chairs at the next meeting.
Yes, they do.
I'll keep you in the loop, but certainly it might be worth reaching out to Ben.
Will do. Thank you, Seth.
Yep.
Moving on to economic vitality. So one of the priorities for the Economic Vitality Committee, which is a subset, there's some participation from the Economic Development Council, but it's really a committee of the partnership at this point, is one outreach to property owners. Uptown has a lot of businesses, individual businesses, but as you can imagine, not as many property owners. And the property owners have a little thing that's known as site control of their property. So that's important for a number of things. One, the types of businesses that we put in there, which I won't go down the rabbit hole of, but we've been very successful at managing that to the best of our abilities. But also facade improvements, lighting, various other things. So physical improvements, but also, you know, the types of tenants and the tenant mix that we have. So they're really a critical stakeholder group, if not one of the most important. As a municipal employee, I have good relationships with almost all of them, not all, but many of them, the lion's share. And the partnership is eager to also participate in those conversations and add assistance where that can happen. And the easiest way to explain what that means on their level is, why don't we meet these people? So like, you know, a lot of the folks in the partnership don't even know, wouldn't be able to pick them out of a lineup. So they completed the baseline sort of audit and assessment of the district about a year ago with a group called Town Center Associates. And the next level is to have one-on-one meetings with various members of the committee, very informal, just getting to know you stuff. So basically coffees. So we've been setting those up with strategically with some of the key property owners. So I'll update folks as that continues. Really, it's just to listen, you know, introduce the partnership, explain the partnership, explain sort of the roles and how we function on this level. You know, who am I in the mix related to the partnership? How does the partnership work with the municipality? All of these sorts of things. And what can we bring to them to assist them with enhancing and improving their properties and vis-a-vis then the business mix and the entire Uptown experience. So those meetings have begun. And I guess maybe this might be a good time to. Kate is also going to be working very closely with the partnership beginning in July. So I think that's really potent as a member of this organization, and she's going to be much more active in the partnership beginning next month. So we'll be sure to invite you to these sessions. We have about 3 or 4 we've earmarked, and then we'll just keep going down the road on that. So that continues. We're looking to have bring back in-person networking opportunities. We did these obviously prior to the pandemic and, you know, we haven't done them in a while. So been kind of waiting for this project to end because, you know, candidly, we want productive gatherings and, you know, where we're not just talking about one subject, bless you. You'll hear in a bit where things are at with the project, but I think this fall, we're going to start kicking those off again. And these are usually fun little events. I try to host them in places like East End Brewing, Mediterra, things like that, where people can gather, have a beverage, a little snack, and just get to know each other. You know, the whole name tag thing. You know, I'm sure you've all been to a networking event. It's that. So usually we do a very brief talk about something. When I say brief, I mean brief, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just discuss a topic that would be of interest to folks, we think, and then set the tongues, you know, loose for conversation about whatever folks want to talk about. So we'd like to have those quarterly. And one of my goals is to have an annual dinner at some point where we, for the partnership, it's a fundraising opportunity, but also an award ceremony and things like that. So this is a step, I'm hoping, in that direction. So keep tuned to that. I'll definitely be inviting everybody from the Economic Development Council to attend those meetings. It's business owners, property owners, and commercial district stakeholders. So keep your eyes open for that, probably targeting, I'm thinking September, October, and then we'll probably take a break because then we're getting into the holidays, and we'll kick it off again in the first quarter of next year. Just some simple grant updates. The design guideline work is really moving along nicely. We had a public meeting that was very well attended. I think people thought we were handing out checks. We were not, but it was well attended. I was gobsmacked actually at the attendance. What was that? The design guideline presentation, yeah, by SGA Landmark. So the partnership, we have a grant from PHMC, that's Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, where we've hired SGA Landmarks, which is a design expert, architectural, historic preservation firm, to come in and develop design guidelines for the Uptown Main Street District, but also provide us some best practice recommendations to change some of the ordinances that really constrain what folks can do, businesses can do up here in regards to signage and other things. So we are in the use a sports analogy, the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth. This should be wrapping up very soon by the end of the summer. There will be another public meeting, which I'll invite everyone to, where they're really exposing the draft guidelines, kind of just bringing everybody up to speed with what the final package will look like. Ultimately, the design committee of the partnership and the partnership board will accept or not accept what they're doing, but so far they've been absolutely on point and fantastic to work with.
And if I can, just to put a fine point on this, or maybe clarify for my purposes. These are design guidelines established and maintained by the partnership. They have no force in ordinance. It is carrot, not stick.
Thank you. That's a very important clarification. So this is not a municipal exercise. This is a initiative of the Mount Lebanon Partnership as the Main Street designated Main Street organization for Uptown, which is a designated Main Street by DCD, and we're nationally recognized as well. So to the commissioner's point, a very good one. This is an incentive for folks to get grant money to do the right thing based on the guidelines that are being developed, which are catered to our particular built environment. We're not East Carson Street or East Ohio Street or, you know, Old Town Philadelphia. So, you know, we have our own blend of architectural styles and eras. So anyway, yeah, it's really so we could go after facade grant dollars, and that's something else I'll be putting into the budget, is that we can seed our own locally sourced or kick off, our own, design, our own facade grant program, that is not encumbered by the state. So, I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole on this, you know, we can talk offline if you want, I don't want to take up the whole meeting, but you know, DCD has a series of things that you need to do to get these dollars. Their window is only open for 2 months out of the year, roughly. And then there's labor and industry issues that come into play with prevailing wage. It gets complicated. And let's be frank, business owners are here to run their business, not walk through a Byzantine labyrinth of guidelines and issues at the state level. That's my job, you know, to help them Sherpa them through that. But a lot of times when I explain to them what all's required, their eyes glaze over and they pass out. So some will take advantage, but I think it's important again that we as a community support these efforts, and the partnership needs to support that on their own by raising funds to have their own nimble pot of dollars, but I think there might be a role for the municipality as well. We'll find out through the budget process, but I'll be putting that also in the budget to seed our own local pot of facade grant and signage dollars. I want to make that point as well. We're not just talking about, it can also be used for signage. Signage is one of the most important, if not the most important, advertising mechanisms for a business. Other than at this point, their social media presence and electronic presence and other marketing efforts, and frankly, the quality of what they offer. But signage is critical, and we can do better, I think, with what we do with signage, which also gets back into the recommendations coming out of this exercise. Any questions about that?
Eric,
Yes.
I'm gonna get off my computer. If you'll let me in, I'm gonna jump on my phone. I need to start heading to the station, okay?
Oh, absolutely, of course, of course.
All right, thank you.
I'll watch for you.
Okay.
That's a pretty good time for her to jump off, because this is gonna be a very brief. So we also have a standing grant that we have not tapped into yet through the Keystone Communities for the second phase of planning for what is now called Vibrant Uptown, but will soon have a new moniker. I don't know what yet, but we'll
Drop Pepper off.
figure it out. What was it? There we go. So that the grant is for $22,250. The municipality is matching that. If you do the math, that's $44,500. I'm not sure when we're going to kick that off. Again, it's one of those things I've been in a holding pattern for obvious reasons with the current iteration of this thing. So I'm thinking I'm just going to start it next year, clean and fresh. I may be applying for dollars through the Keystone Communities program this cycle for next year. I have some questions about that I don't need to labor you guys with. It has to do with matching grants and things. So I may or may not be, but regardless, we have a nice pot of money to specifically look at very specific areas. So I think we have enough money. I don't feel bad about the amount of money that we have, because we're really looking at Clearview Common, potentially different uses for the Alfred lot, and Parse Way. I'm oversimplifying it. There's a little bit else on the periphery of that, but those are really the, if I had to pick the three big hits, that's it. So I'll keep you apprised as things go on with that. I don't really have much more to say about it. That's it. And then zoning best practices, I keep that on there because it's hugely important. The comprehensive plan is going to educate us on that. And then of course, the work that we're doing that I already mentioned with the HMC stuff. Any questions on any of that?
I was just gonna say, if you want to chat online about that, because it's sort of planning money, right? We might need implementation dollars at some point, and I know there's so many things out there, Eric. It's spinning even for us as a public agency. I can only imagine what it is for local municipalities. So I'm sure that's something on Connect's docket to some level, Andrew, is like local capacity, because there's some of these municipalities. You highlighted Castle Shannon, but others that just don't have the capacity to pursue these things because it takes a lot of effort. So But there are dollars out there that I think Mount Lebanon's competitive for, more so than just federal dollars, so. You know, something.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Seth. I mean, once we get the plan done, and I think the plan can be fairly stealth. I don't think this is, let's do it this way. If I have any, this will not drag out. It just won't. My head will explode. So like, I mean, we already have some due diligence and some ideas from the first phasing planning. But we had to keep toggling off of that because we really needed to focus on Washington Road and those sidewalks. Well, that being said, there was good conversation about the areas I mentioned. So I think we already have some stuff in the books and ideas. It's really just, you know, working with the design expert. I already have some numbers based on some high level stuff that I keep throwing into what we call the capital improvement budget, which is again, like kind of like a wish list for things off in the distance. So I already have some, there's already a lot of stuff. So the way I look at it is when we begin this plan, that's why I think we have enough money. We can go through this design process fairly quickly. I think we can get it done in a business quarter, in 3 months, 4 months. Excuse me. We'll also have the comprehensive plan backing us because at that point it'll have been adopted. Everything I'm seeing that's in that comprehensive plan points in the direction that we were going anyway. So everything seems to really be synced. So it's really just putting the bow on the package, getting the numbers, and then looking out to 2025. I look at finishing this plan in 2024, doing frankly, what I consider the harder work, getting the cash, getting the money to implement. I'll definitely be looking at all those resources once we complete the planning. But again, I really don't expect and we'll be pushing very hard to keep that process moving, thorough, but quick.
Yeah,
So,
and good plans usually lead to good grant funds. You know, without them, you waste your time applying and then you don't get them because they can't point to those things. So that's all good stuff.
yeah, in the comp plan, I think we'll point that direction. The 5-year Main Street plan that's been accepted by DCD points to these things. I mean, I put stuff in our stuff 3 years ago. Everything we have is like ding, 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 ding. You know, I mean, like all those boxes check. So, and we've also demonstrated that, and please don't laugh, we can execute projects. So, you know, we we execute projects well.
The contract.
You know, there are some things that are out of our control, but yeah. So and that's known. So most funders, grant agencies and whatnot, like when we submit something because it's usually you know, doable and actionable and has public support. Vibrant Uptown, I'll just roll into that. We are really actually at the end of this for sure.
Reels?
For reals, reals. I'm dropping the mic on this one. If you were out there today, yes, there's still orange Jersey barriers filled with water and fencing and whatnot. Most of the flat work is done. I'll repeat that. Most of the flat work is done. And as of the end of business today, it'll be even more done. They are busting it out. So what the plan is to finish it out today as much as possible. They've been busting it out this week, and God bless these guys for working in, frankly, in these conditions. It's tough work, but they're getting it done. And so we really should be pretty much wrapped up with flat work. That means the sidewalk pours and the zigzaggy stuff that the mazes we've been going through. That should start coming down next week. So I'm putting a pin in that. There is going to be some additional work for the municipal building because Duquesne Light needs to move a power line. That sounds very scary. But after having some conversations with Duquesne Light, the contractor and Gateway engineers, it's not as scary. So it looks like the work can be done in the evening, causing less disruption. or hopefully no disruption to our business district. It should be a somewhat, it should be a fairly quick outage, and then they move the line and off to the races. They complete the front of the municipal building. Then they move on to punch list items, because as you can imagine, we've gone through a number of superintendents on this job, various things. So there are areas, and we are aware that there are areas that aren't as nice as they ought to be. They're on a punch list, and they will go back and they will fix those things. They're also making repairs to the properties that have been damaged in the course of this. So there's a number of things, but that will continue to go on after next week. But the stuff that really, I think, and I'm going to use the word agitates folks, will mostly clear out. The air will clear from all of that. And again, there still will be work that needs to be performed, but the really disruptive stuff that gets under folks' skin should start clearing out very, very shortly. And I'm happy about that, because we're having a big celebration called Uptown Unveiled. And boy, would I have egg on my face if we had the situation we have. Nobody wants to celebrate, it's like having a housewarming party, and there's a hole in the middle of the living room floor, and the kitchen doesn't work.
We're gonna dance on Jersey barriers.
Yeah, we're gonna dance on Jersey. We're gonna make it work. Ain't no party like a Mount Lebanon party. So we're having this celebration on Saturday, August 5th, noon to 6. We're shutting down Washington Road. So people can mill about Uptown. And we're gonna have bands and koozies and all kinds of stuff. So if you're in town that weekend, please join us. And it's really sort of a symbolic handing the district back to the community. So that's that. Any questions?
Eric, what day of the week is that? A Saturday?
It's a Saturday for sure, yeah.
Is there a first Friday in August or no? I can't remember.
Yes.
Okay, so there's two things going on uptown that weekend.
Yeah, and and again,
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, yeah, I mean, and again, guys, this project was needed because, and remind folks, because this is a public meeting and it's recorded. We didn't just do this because we wanted to, put up new wallpaper. The conduit that we had in the ground was catching on fire. The light poles literally are not manufactured anymore. So when people ran into them, we couldn't replace them. So if you remember what the street looked like, we had poles that were literally falling into buildings. We had power outages or street light outages because the conduit was on fire. We had people falling in literally through the sidewalk. So, I mean, this was a necessary capital project, and but it's also, thank you, it was an opportunity, thank you, Commissioner, to all service. I'll tell you what, wow, it's great. It was also an opportunity to update the district with dark sky lights, better lighting. Yes, believe it or not, the grades on the sidewalk have improved. There are larger landing areas. And let me go back to that grade, because I get a question almost every day about the grade of these sidewalks. What is one thing that we don't have uptown? There are not steps up into the buildings. It's not like East Carson Street where there are stairs and steps and huge impediments for folks that don't have the same mobility that maybe others do. So there's a number of reasons why the grade is what the grade is, but one of the things that happens is because of the way the street was designed back in the day with the trolley system and the expansion of the road and the age of the district and all of these things, is we don't have stairs and we don't have that step up into any of our businesses. There's a grade in. So there's a lot of things that go on, but we were able to improve we were able to improve the grade of the sidewalks and provide better landing areas. So, I mean, there were a lot of positives that came out of this. I mean, I think, had it not dragged on so long, I think we'd be celebrating that more. I think it's just folks are frustrated, and rightfully so. with the length of the time that this happens. But that's the nature of construction, unfortunately. And we're at the end of it, and I am very much looking forward to delivering a vastly improved district that will be a great selling point. Yes, selling point moving forward. So, yeah, Vibrant Uptown. We're gonna find a new name for the next phase. So yes, Saturday, August 5th, noon to 6. Commercial district updates. Many of you have noticed, and I've received a lot of emails and texts, so I'm gonna address it. The Damos did move from Uptown. They bought a building in Dormont. So it had nothing to do with the project. I'm just gonna say that right now. It had nothing to do with this project. There were other issues that are not for me to discuss. But that's not the reason. That's what people like to think and blame and whatever, but that is not the case. And it is going to be, there's a new business already moving in, Vecchio Forno. That will be, it's already happening, and there will be another restaurant in there. The owner of Badamos is a great person, worked with him for many years, and not only was he a business stakeholder, but I consider him a friend. So I'm sad to see him go, but these things happen. It's the nature of business districts. They change. So this is change, and again, we'll have another place moving in there. So I'm pretty excited about that. There are also some other things that I'm pretty excited about that I can't really discuss. But we have two, well, one I probably can. Empire Music is expanding again. They're taking over what was a former medical office and will be bringing additional lessons to the street, which means additional parents and wallets that are coming up here for dining and coffee and a beverage of some sort. So that's exciting. Empire Music is expanding yet again and delivering a great service to Uptown. So that is underway now. There's another business expansion that I probably ought not discuss yet because there's still things being finalized, but when I can, I will. And I'm also very excited for that to happen. We're still working through some issues. There's a number of folks interested in the Potomac space. That's back on the market. So there are a couple of folks that are looking at that, which I'm unfortunately not able to discuss. And then there's a couple other things, but hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have a lot more that I can discuss. But I can say that Badamos is being replaced, and Empire is expanding. And I guess I should know, one of the things we want to do is add vitality. What Empire is doing is adding that. And then it's fairly public, but we also have a co-working space, which has been a huge desire of mine since I took this position over a decade ago. Better late than never, and they are targeting an August 1st opening. So I'll have more information on that as things get closer to that actualizing, but that also brings a lot of activity to Uptown for lunch, dinner, all of those things. So again, I'm just very happy and proud of where the district is and excited for where it's yet to go.
So I just want to bring in something that I might have been blind to before, but when Mullet's announced they were opening on Beverly, Kate and I had a back and forth where I was like, oh, we need more family friendly things. So for the first time in 6 years, my wife and I didn't have our kids for a week. And on a Friday night, we were going to go out to get a drink and went to Mullet's. It was packed. It was great to see. Loved it. Too packed for us to join. So we're like, oh, we'll stroll down the street. Everything else was closed at 9 o'clock. So we ended up at Bird on the Run, which is still in Mount Lebanon, and had a good experience there. But it was like, man, Kate was right. We need more places that are open after like 7:30.
Well, right on.
Some people live a different life than I live. So would love to see more of those. I was like, I would love to have a beer at Batto's after 9 and they were flipping up the tables at, on a Friday night. I'm like, man, Mullets is packed. That probably means more people want to do this. So
Yeah, well, Mediterra
just a food for thought.
Mediterra is gonna be having, no, it's great food for thought and let me sip on this for a little while. Did you get it in? But Mediterra is gonna start offering evening hours, but I mean, it's not, I mean, this isn't gonna be like a rave or something. It's not gonna go all night. I think they're probably they're gonna expand it for dinner.
I can't handle a rave, so that's okay.
Right. So, I mean, they're gonna be offering later hours, but not that late. There are some other things that are gonna be happening that might feed into that. But you're right, and same with Uptown, you have the saloon, they're open till 2. Minios oftentimes, depending, can be open later. I'm hopeful that something pulls together with one location that will offer a little bit more late night opportunities closer to home. But yeah, Mount Lebanon is, I mean, let's be frank here. People don't move to Mount Lebanon to party. I mean, it's not, well, okay, some do, all right. We're not, this isn't Bourbon Street or something. So I mean, but there is that, and I found myself, and we've all found ourselves in that position, like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, really? It's like 10 o'clock,
Yeah, just
but-
want to decaf.
Yeah, for real. The wine bar at Il Pete's is often open late, Bistro 19, sometimes is courts customers later than sometimes. But yeah, I mean, you're not gonna walk up the street and, yeah.
Well, and I think also like if you're thinking about where Mullets is located, for the folks that live over there, it's one of the few places in walking distance. Because if you're getting evening cocktails, it's great if you can be walking to do that instead of driving. And so having some things in Uptown and then some things over in Beverly that have that kind of late night appeal. And I would also say like the types of drinks you get at Mullets are not gonna be the same types of drinks you're gonna get at like the Saloon or East End. So it's nice having a little bit of like that kind of diversity and that mix on both sides of the kind of district.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, certainly. And there's a couple end caps, and I won't name names, but they're places that don't have a lot of foot traffic throughout the week and day that, they might be financial institutions that, I would love some zoning changes down the line to I don't know. There's we could go into it on a whole thing, but
But I think that's important. I mean, you're bringing up an important thing. We don't offer much. That's where we have leakage. In terms of what kind of business inventory we have. And speaking of vitality, Hitchhiker closes because of zoning at 10, and that's fine. Caliente's is open till 2. They're grandfathered in for various reasons. And I could go on about different things, but we don't have that. You go to a theater show downtown or something, and you take the T, or you go to a Pirates game or a football game, you get off the T, and your options are limited if it's a certain hour, and that's for sure. And even with the hotel, I was hoping the hotel would put some pressure on folks. But we had that little pandemic thing, and they're back up. Their room rentals are back up and strong. I was hoping that hotel would kind of put some pressure on that piece of the puzzle, but it just hasn't happened yet. But something to work on.
yeah, and I don't, we could talk this the whole time. I walked by the hotel the other day and was wondering if the comp plan is even thinking this in that realm or future elements. But that I know that planting area, why it exists. I'm wondering if it could be retrofitted to be a patio that is for the hotel, but a patio that has connection right inside to a bar or something else, because it's not offering anything to the street as a really, questionably planted buffer.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. It's more of a, no, well, so they have new ownership and they have approached us about doing just that, Seth.
Yeah.
They want to do that. So they have introduced, to call it a pub or a bar, I think is very generous. It's if you've been in their lobby, and if you haven't, just walk in, you'll see what I'm talking about. They've added a bar, but it's not your. You know, if you stay at a Hilton or a Sheraton, you know, they oftentimes have a bar that you could, you know, go watch a game at, that type of thing. This is really more just like, hey, I'm sick of being in the room. I'm gonna go get a beer at the lobby and then we'll go to the Pirates game. It's really, it doesn't really function as a full bar, but I think they would like to do something like that. And they have approached us about converting that planner into seating, because they're aware of it too. It's a maintenance issue. It's dead space.
Mhm.
And the reason it's there for anyone that might be watching at home, Mount Lebanon, when that was being proposed, and it still does on the books, has a setback requirement that they were forced, their building envelope was set back 10 feet by the required ordinance, hence that planter. Because underneath that is the parking structure, so they really couldn't, so it's really, yeah, it's kind of a waste of space, to be blunt, but they are looking at that. Nothing has been actioned on, but it's in their viewscape. So, well noted. Any other questions or business at hand? I mean, I could keep going on. Needle and Pin is making progress on Castle Shannon. I'm pretty stoked about that as a resident in that area, so they continue to plug along. Hopefully that'll be opening soon. Bird on the Run, Seth mentioned, is open. That is in Mount Lebanon. I'm not sure if they're open yet for sit-down lunches, but they were doing takeout.
We sat at the bar and had like a late night dinner and a couple beer or drinks, and you know, it was quiet, but they're open. They do have late night hours, so it was great to have an option.
Yeah, and that's in the former Jose Antonio's for those keeping score, and then Zorro's. Yeah, that's a really nice addition, and I'm a vegetarian, so the food offerings there are not up my alley, but for those that do partake, apparently it's amazing. So I've heard nothing, everybody's been like, their chicken sandwiches off the hook, and all that kind of stuff. So if that is what you like on the menu, check it out.
Hey, Eric,
Yeah.
what's going, I think you've told us, what's going in the IVN? There's nothing planned yet, or?
No, there's definitely a plan, bless you. So that building has been acquired by some folks, and that they are doing some work in there to turn it into a salon, and also for hair, and then also nails and that type of thing. So it's going to be a beautification center.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So they're obviously doing some work on it. Any other questions about things in flux?
Do we have an opening date for the bar that, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. Brandon used to own it, and then,
Oh, Corner Pub.
yeah.
Yeah, so the Corner Pub, so this is on Bower Hill, right when you turn onto it off of Washington. Yeah, so they're renovating the space. I don't have an opening date. They're you know, for various reasons, they've just, I don't have an opening date, but that'll pretty much be like the Corner Pub. I think they're changing the carpet and a few other things, but and they also will have, so the Corner Pub had an old malt beverage license, so they were never able to sell liquor or anything like that. I think these guys are looking to update that.
Yeah, they're going after beer, wine, and like limited spirits.
Limited spirit, yeah, so it's more of a curated experience, if you will. This is the same folks that used to operate Bakery Square in the East End, Federal Gallery, those folks. So you know, they're churning away. I know our inspections department has been reviewing plans, and they continue to make those renovations.
Eventually, Seth, I'm gonna just find a bunch of places that I will make you go out and have late night drinks with me throughout Mount Lebanon. We'll do like a little bar, like a late night bar tour. It won't take super long, but it will be fun.
No, it's popped in my head. We have cameras in the kids' room. We have good internet. How far away can I get and still sprint back if things were spiraling? And you know, that's the ideal. Like I don't, I can do a bar tour as long as
You're a
it's
fit
within a
man.
5K. Back to
You're a
the.
fit man, Seth, you can walk a mile in 15 minutes, so
Yeah.
give you half a mile. Anything else for the good of the order? Stacy, do you want to gavel us out? Ask for a motion to adjourn.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll second that, or I'll do either one that needs to be happen.
I'll do the other.
All right, so Seth, you're gonna do the motion, and I'm sorry, who was the second?
That was Jen.
Okay, very good. Jen, okay, thank you, Jen. Well, to those of you on holiday, enjoy your holidays and safe travels. And everyone else, no matter what you do on the 4th, be safe and have a good time, and definitely support your Mount Lebanon businesses.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank you,
4th.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.